Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Speedcast coverage of this year's National Autosport Association National Championships. It's going to be a fantastic race here at Mid-Ohio. H1, green, green, green. Landrum, your pole sitter, did not get a great start. Good run for Martinez. He's going to look to the inside of Dabrowski coming up. We have a new leader, Mark Bennett, and both against together. Evasive maneuvers, Rocco's your national champion, Bernardo Martinez. Joe Friday, Carl Troy, Griswold, Joe Moser, Birch.
The National Autosport Association German Touring Series National Championship is brought to you by O.S. Gicken, Toyo Tires, and Tom Hayden Motorsports.
Welcome once again to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for the NASA Championships. Today we're featuring the German Touring Series, or GTS, classes 1 through 5. Clark, tell us about these cars.
Well, as you said, Kevin, this is the German Touring Series. So these are for cars that were made in Germany. So we have Audis, Porsches, BMWs, things like that. And the classes are actually arranged GTS 1 through GTS 5, GTS 1 being the slowest, and GTS 5 being the fastest. And they actually base that off of weight to horsepower ratio. So the GTS 5 cars are very quick. They're about 6 to 1. So some very serious race cars, all the way down to GTS 1, which you'll see some 944s, things like that, which are a little bit slower. And today we're actually focusing on GTS 3 and GTS 2.
Well, let's take a look at what happened in this race 1 year ago. Scott Berkowitz led the GTS 3 field to the green and held off Sean Tillinghast to take the early lead. As the race progressed, Berkowitz began to feel the heat from Randy Mueller, who took advantage of lap traffic to move into the lead. At the finish, it was Mueller with a comfortable victory over Berkowitz, with Tillinghast close behind. In the GTS 2 class, Jim Childs started from the pole, but Jeffrey Curtis took his 911 to the early lead. At the halfway point, the top 3 GTS 2 cars were nose to tail on the track. Lap traffic gave Child the opening he needed as he worked his way around Curtis in turn 11. And at the line, it was Jim Child, followed closely by Curtis, and then Carl Pacelli.
All right, so cars are lined up, getting ready to take the green. We're going to take a look at the starting order. Andy Watts will start in the pole, followed by Michael Mills, Bill Mukalak, and Barry Battle in GTS 5.
In GTS 4, we've got Ryan Osiki on the pole, followed by Douglas Wilson, Blake Krieger, Derek Schwartz, and Jamie Frauenberg.
Scott Berkowitz will start on the pole in GTS 3, followed by last year's champion Randy Mueller. Scott Gerard starts third, Eric Wong fourth, and Michael Dayton will start fifth.
In the GTS 2 class, it's Scott Good on the pole, followed by Carl Pacelli. Carl Troy will start from third, then it's John Van Houten and Jim Child.
And rounding out our starting grid in GTS 1, Mike Malice will start on the pole, Bill Comat second, Christian Cook third, Eric Coons, and Robert Picori will start fifth. So cars rolling down the back stretch. You'll notice that we don't break up the classes in GTS. Everybody starts together. So we have cars all the way through the field in different classes. On board with Eric Wong now as they get ready to take the green.
In fact, out in front we've got one Class 4 car and one Class 5 car. It's Ryan Osiki on the pole, and then Andy Watts alongside him as they come down for the green flag here on the back straight.
And green flag is out. Big field rolls down. Last race of the NASA Championships, and we are underway.
Man, just a gaggle of cars back there, about 5th through, 15th maybe.
As they work their way through turn 4, already have a car off.
Looks like that's Scott Gerard off at the start of the race. Car 701.
So Scott Gerard was our, third or fourth place starter in GTS 3, and he's going to slide way back. And it looks like Andy Watts will slot into second behind Ryan Osiki. And you can see Sean Tillinghast got into the bumper of a car behind. A chunk of bodywork came off, and Tillinghast picked it up. Tillinghast was the 06 champion, and we'll be following him today with an in-car camera. He started way back in the field because he didn't run in one of the qualifying races. Now on board with Tillinghast as he works his way through cars all over the place.
Tillinghast did well on Saturday when he got his engine problem solved. He won the race on Saturday and was the second fast qualifier on Saturday. So the car is a good car. It's got a good motor in it now, and we'll see what he does.
Yeah, Tillinghast actually over-revved the engine during qualifying for the first qualifying race. And, they thought maybe they had a bent valve, something like that, so he opted not to run on Friday. And they actually took that engine apart and redid the head, and I think he only got a couple hours of sleep, but he went out and won on Saturday. So he's definitely somebody to watch in GTS3.
Another car to watch in the GTS3 class, Scott Berkowitz, who won the race on actually he was a fast qualifier on Friday, finished second in the race on Friday.
And we could see we had a pass for the overall lead. That was Ryan Osicki. Lost the lead to Andy Watts, so Andy Watts into the overall lead now. Now on board with Jim Child, running fourth in GTS2. Just ahead of him is Pacelli, and just ahead of him is Carl Troy. Carl Troy, expecting big things out of him. He was actually the last year's 944 Super Cup champion, just ran away with that race last year. And has moved over to GTS, and real interesting to see how Carl does.
On board with Jim Child, and he was the 07 champ here at Mid-Ohio.
And you can see, and that 007 car that just moved around Child, that's actually a GTS4 car, so that was not for position. And we're going to see this all day long where these guys, they have to race with cars that aren't in their class. And kind of the balance there is that, a car in another class could get between you and the guys that you want to race with, and you got to figure out what to do with that. You can see Pacelli is all over Carl Troy as they come out of turn one, and Child closing in. Child hungry to move up to the lead. And not too far in front of them is Scott Good, who's the leader in GTS2.
Yeah, we're looking at second, third, and fourth right now between Troy, Pacelli, and Child.
Ooh, and Pacelli and Troy got together a little bit. It looks like Pacelli's going to make that stick. You can see Jim Child look around the outside, didn't make that happen, and there goes Tillinghast.
And this is good for Scott Good as these cars race. It gives him an opportunity to pull out away from the challengers just a little bit.
Oh, man, look at Jim Child all the way up the inside. Bonsai move. Not able to make it stick. Pacelli gets back by, but he will make it stick against Carl Troy. So Carl Troy in two corners goes from second to fourth. He's got to be frustrated with that. And Jim Child, what an impressive move up the inside going into turn four.
Well, he knows this racetrack, as I mentioned a moment ago, defending champion here.
Yeah, Jim Child with that beautiful car. And he's going to start to work on Pacelli now, see if those guys can kind of hook up and catch Scott Good as they work their way through turn 11, down into the keyhole now.
Looks like Carl Troy is just satisfied to sit back and watch for a little bit, see if he can sort things out.
Yeah, I'm sure Carl wants to get up in that lead, but it may be that, his car's just been a little bit slower to get the tires up to temperature or something like that, and so he can cruise a little bit. He has those guys in sight. Scott Good, you can see, is just working his way out of turn one, so not too far ahead. As a couple other cars move around Troy. Again, cars that are not in class, it's not for position.
And once again on the outside, the 701 car, that was Scott Gerard once again, the car we saw off the track at the start of the race.
Yeah, and that messed up Carl a little bit. You can see Carl actually dropped a couple wheels off coming out of the keyhole. And here comes Corey Deason. That's a GTS 3 car. So Troy will drop in behind him, try and catch a draft.
Oh!
Oh, and Troy into the back of Deason.
Oh, man, what happened there? Deason all messed up into the into China Beach there, and he'll be stuck.
Yeah, it looks like Deason actually got into the wall there after Troy hit him.
Yeah, it looks like he has damage on the front and the back of that car. We know he's got damage on the back. You know, we saw him be raised up off the track by Carl Troy. Let's look at it again.
Ooh, at Troy. It's, you know, Carl brakes later than a lot of guys. He brakes later than most of the guys on the track, and he may have just not expected Deason to get on the brakes that early, or it may have been just a little bit of brain fade. I'm sure it wasn't intentional, and that's unfortunate for both those guys because you got to believe that Troy has some damage. It looks like he was able to continue, and Deason is out for sure.
Now looking at the GTS 3 class, Scott Berkowitz, your leader.
So Scott Berkowitz, Randy Mueller just behind them Eric Wong. Berkowitz, Tillinghast, and Mueller really the class of the field in this class. Berkowitz was the Great Lakes region champion for the last 2 years, and as we saw in the highlights from last year, Mueller actually won last year. Berkowitz finished second after leading a good chunk of the race. I
mentioned that he was a fast qualifier Friday. He was also the fast qualifier Saturday, finished second in the qualifying race on Saturday, so we know that car's got the potential to be out in front. And Tillinghast, once again, starting from the back and trying to make his way forward, having a tough time with some of the other class cars.
So that kind of teal car in front of him is not for position, but then the silver M3 just ahead is Ewing, and that is for position. So I believe that's a battle for seventh in that class, and you can see Tillinghast gets around Ewing. So now Tillinghast next in line is going to go to work on Bouse. So Tillinghast sort of working on Douglas Wilson. That's that teal M3. That's actually a GTS 4 car. But as we said, there are times when you sometimes have to pass somebody, even somebody who's in a faster class, just to get at the guys that you really want to get at.
It's really interesting the way these classes are. You know, you've got class 3 cars that are running with 4s, faster than 4s, and even some of the 5s, and it just really mixes things up out there on the racetrack.
So as they work their way through the keyhole, that's Tillinghast there in that silver and blue car. Next in line is Bouse. It's a silver 911 as they work down into turn 4. There you can see Eric Wong, the blue and white car. He's third in GTS 3.
Back on board with Tillinghast again. Oh, what do we got here? Edward Bouse, the number 25 car, does a loop right in the middle of the track. He sits facing the wrong direction.
And Tillinghast checks another one off his list, so that'll move him up into 6th in GTS 3. Impressive run for Tillinghast. And you can see he had to make a little bit of an evasive maneuver, but they didn't get together, so good driving on Tillinghast's part. And I think Bouse will be able to keep going once he gets that car refired.
He just has to wait for a clear track to get around, but certainly going to lose some positions there.
So now, as we said, Michael Dayton next in line for Tillinghast, now on board with Carl Pacelli. And we talked about this. Pacelli now is caught up with Scott Good as they make their way through the carousel.
Scott Good, the blue and white car right in front of him, number 333.
So it's actually the top 3 cars in GTS 2 right in a row. Scott Good, Carl Pacelli, Jim Child.
And just a couple of spots back to the number 69 car of Child.
And just behind them is a GTS 3 car of Scott Gerard. That was that car we saw sort of slide off the track at the beginning of the race. So Gerard kind of making his way back up through the field after that mistake.
Actually, Carl Troy in the 69 car in 4th position in the GTS 3 field.
Yeah, Carl Troy still on track, although quite a ways back, and it appears that car's still running okay. So hopefully Carl will be able to salvage a decent finish after that mistake earlier with Corey Deason. Now on board with Child. That's the 701 of Gerard. Gerard was able to get around Child going down the straightaway. And we had a chance to catch up with Child earlier and sort of talk to him about some modifications he's made to his car over the last year and his expectations for the race today.
I think my biggest upgrade is this wing right here. I've got an adjustable rear wing. I've been playing with that this year. Finally, I think I got it working. And then beyond that, just kind of playing with some setup things, different spring rates, different alignment settings, just, always trying to find the perfect setup.
I've been asking our champions from last year, how has the rain affected your racing? And if it rains tomorrow, how do you feel that's going to affect your race?
Yeah, that's the big thing for me is I've been really struggling with the rain setup. I think I've got a really good dry setup on the car. I've been going after that all year and kind of neglecting the rain setup, and now here the rains are for the championship race. So have some theories on how I might be able to go faster in the rain tomorrow, but I'm really hoping it's going to stay dry. So we'll see.
So back to racing, still with the GTS 2 competitors. They make their way through turn 1. Back on board with Carl Pacelli. Scott Good not really getting away, but these guys, Pacelli really hasn't been able to close much more. Scott Good set the fastest lap of the race the last lap, and Pacelli answered with a lap that was about 0.2 quicker. So both these cars very quick, but Pacelli not quite able to close the gap. And
looks like they're kind of running by themselves out there now. They don't have those other class cars around to deal with, and just get down to business with the cars in their own class.
Yeah, absolutely. And we heard Good talk about, or Child talk about, some concerns about the weather, and it doesn't look like it may not rain today, but wind is a big issue. The remnants of Hurricane Ike have traveled up through the center of the U.S., and now they're in Ohio, and we actually have 70-mile-an-hour gusts right now going down the back straightaway. You can see the leaves blowing around, things like that. And that could create some problems for these guys as the race goes on.
Back on board with Scott Berkowitz, leader of the GTS 3 class. You can see things have kind of strung out for him as well.
We want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of today's race, Tom Hayden Motorsports, Toyo Tires, and O.S. Gicken. O.S. Gicken actually produces differentials for these BMW M3s, and both Scott Berkowitz and Sean Tillinghast have O.S. Gicken differentials in their cars, and obviously those are working well. Those guys are both very quick.
Now you see Tillinghast challenging Michael Dayton in the 015 car.
Yep, so this is going to be for 5th place. Tillinghast deep into 4. See if Dayton can fight back around the outside. Yeah, Dayton's still there. And Sean will have to back off and try and work his way around Dayton somewhere else. Tillinghast just on a tear right now.
And they'll head for Thunder Valley as they work on lap number 9 here.
Yeah, Dayton held up a little bit by that slower lap car, and that's going to allow Sean Tillinghast to get alongside as they work their way through 10. This is tough now. Can he make it stick around the outside in 11? And he does it. Dayton backing off a bit. Thought about challenging, thought better of it. So Tillinghast now into 5th place in GTS 3. And next up will be Jay Mattis. And after that, Eric Wong. So Tillinghast probably doesn't have the speed, unless we have a caution, probably doesn't have the speed to catch Mueller and Berkowitz, but certainly has great potential to finish on the podium today.
Well, it's amazing. He started back at least in the 35th position at the start and has moved up to just about, I believe he's in about 13th in the field and 4th or 5th in the class.
Yeah, excellent job by Tillinghast today, and that's that's tough to start that far back and pass but use controlled aggression and have enough patience to sort of make it happen without making any mistakes. So you can see there as we saw Eric Wong and Jay Mattis pass by. Now on board with Eric Wong as he works his way down into turn 6, passing some slower cars. Mattis just behind Wong. Wong solidly in 3rd position at this point, although Berkowitz and Mueller are way out front, so Wong probably doesn't have a chance at beating those guys, but certainly has a podium finish right now in hand, about halfway through the race at this point. And we should mention, as you watch sort of the running order and the lap chart on your screen at the top of the screen, all that is determined by the overall leaders, who we haven't seen too much of. So you may see those laps change over a little bit sooner than you'd expected, because the overall leaders are, about a half a lap in front of these cars at the moment.
And Tillinghast moves past another class car, slower class car that time. Once again on board with Sean Tillinghast in the GTS 3 class.
So, we had a car that looked like a car that slid off on the outside of turn 1. That's going to sort of bunch things up, and that's going to allow Tillinghast to close up on Jay Mattis as they work their way through the keyhole. Mattis is that next car ahead of him. Mattis in a black Porsche 996. And you can see all the leaves and debris blowing down the back straightaway. Those are leaves that are being stripped off the trees now by the wind. And you may notice as this broadcast goes on that a few of our cameras drop out. It's because we're starting to pull our camera operators out of their towers. Just a little bit too much danger from the wind. So we apologize for that, but we will stay with this race with in-car cameras as we go on.
It's great shots from these in-car cameras. Makes it exciting. Kind of get a feel of what these drivers are experiencing a little bit, I imagine.
And Tillinghast takes a look on the inside in turn 9. He's going to make that stick. Impressive move. It's hard to pass in that corner. Not a place you'd normally pass, but Tillinghast does it. So now that's going to move him into 4th for GTS 3. And he'll set sail for Eric Wong next. Car in front of him is actually Jamie Frauenberg, who is not in his class. It's a GTS 4 car. But then the next car up, which you can just barely see heading into turn 1, that is Eric Wong. So Sean Tillinghast running about a second and a half, a lap faster than Wong, which means he should catch him pretty quick here.
Well, and once again, evidence of how close these classes can be. The Class 4 car running right with the Class 3 cars.
Sure. So now we move back to the leaders in GTS 3, and you can see Mueller is not letting Berkowitz get away at all. Berkowitz working his way. Actually, those are the leaders of GTS 1 ahead of Berkowitz. That's Bill Comat leading the GTS 1 field at this point.
And these cars getting lapped at this point, Clark?
Yeah, they've already been lapped by the overall leaders, and then Berkowitz is moving around them for the first time. So just past Christian Cook, who's second in GTS 1. That blue car just ahead is Bill Comat. Berkowitz will work his way around that. And this is really key. We've talked about this with other classes that, you as a leader of a race, as you're working through lap traffic, it's really important to try and place that traffic where it's at a disadvantage to the guy behind you. And you can see Berkowitz trying to force the issue, trying to get cars in between him and Mueller. And he was successful in that. When we first checked up with these guys, Mueller was right on top of Berkowitz, and now he's a few car lengths back. So that gives him just a little bit of breathing room.
And, you can see those GTS 1 cars, they're racing for position. They don't want to give a spot up, but, they got the other faster cars coming up, so kind of a dilemma for them as well.
Sure, yeah, they have to, at least make room, and you don't want to force a guy into a mistake that may take you out as a slower car. But right, you don't want to get messed up either. So they did a good job with that, and everybody's able to continue on in position. Now on board with Tillinghast again.
It's coming up on Ty Krieger in the 103 car.
Yeah, so Krieger is not in his class.
Another GTS 4 car.
And Krieger actually was able to get around Tillinghast. He was behind him for a while. But then they are closing quickly on Eric Wong. So Tillinghast has a little bit of a dilemma here because, as you can see, Krieger just yanks away down the straightaway. But Krieger's actually running about the same lap time as Sean at this point. So, obviously a little bit slower in the corners, a little bit faster down the straightaway. And, if I'm in Sean's shoes, I don't want Krieger to sort of mess up my chance to get around Wong. So he's going to have to play this smart as they work their way through the back section of the track. And Krieger is actually closing on Frauenberg, and that is for position in GTS 4.
And I suppose Tillinghast would just as soon see those cars move on out in front of Wong and just get out of the way.
Sure, yeah, that would be ideal. Oh, and you can see Krieger checked up a little bit for a slower car. We'll see what Sean does with this. He's going to take a look around the outside. It's gutsy as they move into the carousel.
You can't tell, but I believe they're side by side
Yeah.
Tillinghast, I think he got tapped, and his best option was head for pit row.
So Tillinghast opts to bail. Man, that is a bummer because now he's going to have to go 30 miles an hour all the way down pit road, and he will lose all kinds of time doing that.
Well, it was either pit road or the pit wall, and the road was a better choice.
That's right. Yeah. He probably would have ended up, face first in that wall. So it was probably the best choice, but disappointing there. And probably what happened there is he just tried to go around the outside of Krieger, wasn't quite clear, and the two of them got together, and it knocked Tillinghast sideways, and there you go. So he'll have to kind of start over again, probably drop back to 5th or 6th.
We've seen him move from the back before, so, we'll see what happens.
Oh, and Berkowitz gets held up by a slower car. Mueller's right there, and Mueller pounces. So Mueller into the lead as they headed into turn 9. Berkowitz trying to get around that slower car, wasn't able to get it done.
Randy Mueller, your defending champion, trying to make it 2 in a row now as he takes the lead. We work lap 14.
And Berkowitz, 2 wheels in the grass. That was Michael Gershonik they were passing. So Berkowitz, man, he is on the button now. Mueller has been on his tail all race long and just looking for an opportunity, and that was it. Berkowitz got held up a little bit. Mueller around the outside, gutsy move there. And Berkowitz now has to get it back. Just a few laps left.
Let's see if Berkowitz gets up on the wheel now and tracks down Mueller.
And he's got to be hitting himself in the head right now. That's very similar to what happened last year. Berkowitz led a good chunk of the race, got held up in lap traffic. Mueller was able to get around and ended up winning the race. And I know Scott really wants this. I mean, he's local, lives in the area, and very quick at Mid-Ohio, and definitely wants this bad. Scott actually carries the number 88. Of John Engel. John was a driver who unfortunately lost his life at Mid-Ohio just a year ago. Scott and John were very close, and in honor of John, Scott carries that number, and I know Scott would love to take home a win here at Mid-Ohio in John's honor as well.
Right now, Randy Mueller out in front, and not really pulling away, but a little bit of distance between first and second place. This could turn into quite a battle here. See what happens.
And you can see they just worked their way around Carl Troy. Troy slowing a bit. May have sustained some damage in that accident we saw earlier.
Carl Troy definitely off the pace in the 69 car.
And you can see they're working their way through these slower, GTS1, GTS2 cars. And Berkowitz not letting Mueller get away. But time is running out on this race, so Berkowitz has got to find a way to catch Mueller and get it done in the last couple of laps. And you can see, Mueller, unfortunately we don't have an in-car camera with him, but he is very quick, does not make very many mistakes, good clean lines, and he's going to be tough to pass.
And I imagine he's keeping a close eye on his mirror just to see where Berkowitz is, too. He knows that Berkowitz is going to make a run at him.
And you can see the Tom Hayden Motorsports sticker just under the camera on Scott Berkowitz's car. Berkowitz and Sean Tillinghast are actually teammates, and they both sometimes work on their cars out.
Berkowitz up tight on Mueller there.
Yeah, he was able to close a little bit on Mueller as they headed into 4. As I was saying, that those guys both work on their cars out at Tom Hayden's shop sometimes. In fact, Hayden's shop was actually where they went when Tillinghast had his engine problems. Now checking back in with the GTS2 competitors, there's Carl Pacelli. And Pacelli is, he's lost a bit of time to Good. Scott Good has driven a really clean race, has been very consistent, and he's able to open up quite a gap on Pacelli. But Jim Child's still riding in third and not too far off from Pacelli. So we can see him sort of negotiate some of the slower traffic. And not too long here, we're going to see Berkowitz and Mueller will actually be catching these GTS2 leaders. I believe they're going to catch them before the end of the race. So, and as you catch cars that are closer to you in speed, it becomes more of a challenge. I mean, these GTS2 cars are just as fast in the corners, but not quite as quick down the straightaway. So, it gets harder and harder to pass some of these cars as the race goes on.
These cars running a spec tire, Clark, or they have a choice of what they can use under them?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. They're open as far as tire goes, although if you run a slick tire instead of a DOT tire, you have to carry a little bit more weight. So some of these competitors are on a DOT tire. Some opt for the slick with a little bit more weight. I know Scott Berkowitz is on Hoosiers. Some of their competitors probably on the Toyo RA1. So now on board with Carl Pacelli. And Pacelli, you can see, just a couple corners ahead of Scott Good as he works his way around. Pacelli, real strong race. Good weekend for him. Run a real clean race so far, and things continue to go well. Should finish on the podium. So they'll work their way through the carousel onto the front straightaway. And once again, you can see all kinds of junk blowing across the track as the winds pick up. And that may also play a role as this race goes on, Kevin, where, like we said, there's a headwind going down the back straightaway for these guys right now. So that can affect drafting. It can affect how the car handles as you head into a corner. All kinds of things. So that can get real exciting real quick when you have gusts like this.
Winding down here, lap 17 is what we're working on now, scheduled for 19.
So once again, down the back straightaway, and that's lap 17 in the books for the leaders, the overall leaders, which is a little bit different than lap 17 for these guys.
And the leaders are out of sight and gone at this point.
Right, yeah, and actually the overall leaders have put a lap, I believe, on the GTS2 cars at this point. So now on board with Berkowitz. Mueller just ahead. You can see Berkowitz has closed that gap.
He's really challenged, sticking his nose in there, letting him know he's right there.
So Mueller will have to get around the slower 944, and then the next car in line is going to be Jim Child. And they're going to head down into Thunder Valley. So Mueller will catch Jim Child probably on the front straightaway. And like we said, this is one of those times. Do you force the issue? Do you be a little bit more patient? Mueller knows that Berkowitz is right there, and he's got to push. 2 laps to go now.
And like we've seen so often in these NASA championships, lap traffic playing a role, being a factor in these events.
Looks like Mueller's going to try the inside, going into turn 1. Tough place to pass. Oh, and Mueller gets sideways. Mueller sideways in turn 1. Berkowitz gets the run. Can Berkowitz get it done? Fake to the outside.
Looked like Mueller had to check up there just a little bit, so open the door for Berkowitz.
And Berkowitz into the lead. 2 to go. Mueller getting sideways. Fakes to the left. Berkowitz goes around on the inside. And we have a new leader, Scott Berkowitz, back into the lead with 2 to go. You could see Mueller just, went into turn 1 maybe a little bit too hard. Real tough to pass there and get it done. And got sideways in the middle of the corner. Almost lost the car, but saved it. It was actually a really impressive save.
I don't think Mueller's going away. He's going to be right there pushing Berkowitz, just like Berkowitz was pushing him.
And Berkowitz just got into the Carl Pacelli. That was that car that Berkowitz just passed. Looked like they touched a little bit. Pacelli able to continue. So now Berkowitz, hopefully he doesn't have any damage. Pacelli didn't hopefully sustain any damage. That could affect both of these guys, leaders in their classes.
GTS3 and GTS2 racing together at this point.
And Mueller is right there.
You can see it.
It's going to be 1 to go as they come across the line this lap. Mueller right on Berkowitz's tail.
Once again, it says last lap at the top of the screen, but that's because the leaders have already passed the start-finish line. These guys will come down and they'll be taking their white flag for their final lap.
So white flag is out, 1 to go. Scott Berkowitz leads Randy Mueller. Now on board with Jim Child, and you can see that's Pacelli just ahead. So Pacelli, after that contact, slowed up a bit. And you can see a little bit of smoke out of that car, so probably is a fender rub, and that's going to allow Jim Child to close. So our two focus classes, GTS2, GTS3, and we have a battle for second in GTS2 and a battle for the lead in GTS3.
I'm sure Jim Child's licking his chops just a little bit, thinking, maybe this is his opportunity with that tire rub on Pacelli.
Yeah, man, you never know. You can see Pacelli moving over the inside, trying to break the draft a little bit as they head down the back straightaway. Jim Child's got to get it done on the straightaway if he's going to get it done at all. Very tough to pass anywhere else. And you can see Pacelli running a little bit of a defensive line going through there. You can see checkers are out for the overall leaders. So this will be the last lap. Checkers will be in hand when they come around to the stripe.
Once again, Child, the defending champ, trying to do it again, but he's got a ways to go. Meanwhile, Scott Berkowitz out in front.
Berkowitz sideways, may have gotten together with Mueller a little bit. Both of them sideways out of 9, side by side through 10.
Oh, Mueller off the track. All four wheels off the track as he tries to get by on the inside. But it's Berkowitz out in front. Now Mueller will try on the outside.
Mueller trying the crossover move side by side.
Tough place to pass.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get it done. You can see Mueller sliding wide a little bit, and Berkowitz will cross the line in first place. What a race.
National championship to Scott Berkowitz. Now back to the GTS2 class, coming to the flag. Scott Good has already taken the checker. It'll be Pacelli second, and Jim Child will finish in third.
Man, what a race. That was an awesome race. And I think maybe Berkowitz and Mueller may have gotten together a little bit to cause Berkowitz to get sideways like that, and then side by side through the last 3 corners. Awesome racing. Let's take a look at the overall finishing position. So Andy Watts is going to finish first in GTS 5. Michael Mills will finish second. Bill Mukalak third, and Barry Battle fourth.
In the GTS 4 class, Ryan Osiki is your winner. Derek Schwartz finishes second. Jamie Frauenberg third. Fourth place goes to Douglas Wilson, and Marco Perez finishes fifth.
And Scott Berkowitz is going to take home the national championship in GTS 3. Randy Mueller finishes second. Eric Wong is going to come home third. Great run for him. Jay Mattis fourth, and Sean Tillinghast all the way from the back into fifth.
In the GTS 2 class, Scott Good is your winner. Carl Pacelli finishes a strong second. Then it's Jim Child in third. Teddy Worrell finishes fourth, and then it's Mike Ward in the fifth position.
And finally, GTS 1, Bill Comat's going to come home with a win. Great weekend for him. Christian Cook will finish second. Mike Malleus third. Robert Pecori fourth, and Jean-Pierre Verbon will finish fifth.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's German Touring Series races. We'd like to thank our sponsor for today's events, Tom Hayden Motorsports and OS Gicken, and of course Toyo Tires for the overall sponsorships of this Speedcast production. Join us again next year, where we'll be coming to you live from Miller Motorsports Park in Utah for the NASA Championships 2009.